Springfield, you're next on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before starting my presentation, I'd like to publicly thank the staff of OCD and New Mexico Tech for all the help that they've given our staff in the development of a draft for discussion. They have been pleasant to work with, and they've educated us on many, many different things. At a March 28, 2016 work session meeting with the Board of County Commissioners, the County Commission discussed the comprehensive zoning ordinance and the section of the ordinance dealing with the oil and gas activities within Sandoval County. Present at the meeting were representatives of OCD and New Mexico Tech. During the meeting, several issues were discussed. One, the public's request to impose a moratorium on all oil and gas activities within the county. Two, an agreement with New Mexico Tech to provide technical assistance to the county regarding oil and gas activities within the county. Three, the potential amendment of the zoning ordinance regarding oil and gas activities within the county. Each issue was discussed at length. The County Commission provided guidance as to the actions needed to be taken. One, there was no support at that time for a moratorium within the county for oil and gas activities. Two, the County Commission agreed that an agreement with New Mexico Tech was desired to provide technical assistance regarding oil and gas activities. Three, and most importantly for us, the staff was to begin the process of zoning ordinance revisions needed to clarify county guidelines regarding oil and gas activities within the county. Staff was instructed to develop such guidelines in a manner that provided no conflicts between county jurisdiction and the jurisdiction of OCD. After that meeting in April of 2016, staff began reviewing existing county ordinances from around the state. 3 ordinances were reviewed for content: Rio Arriba, San Miguel, and Santa Fe. Staff developed a draft ordinance utilizing portions of these ordinances. After the draft was developed, it was sent to OCD and New Mexico Tech for review and comment. In the summer of 2016, the staff held 2 public meetings to gather public input regarding oil and gas activities within the county. Most of the comments had nothing to do with land use issues and were primarily engineering issues that were in direct conflict with the jurisdiction of OCD. Specifically, the majority of comments had to do more with drilling production technologies and practices used within the oil and gas industry itself. Staff met with OCD in the fall of 2016. Significant changes to the draft ordinances were made after discussing concerns regarding jurisdictional issues with OCD staff. New Mexico Tech was instrumental in providing staff with information related to environmental, technical, and economic issues related to oil and gas activities throughout the state. Of importance was information regarding regulatory requirements of producing versus non-producing counties. Of the ordinances reviewed from the first draft, only Rio Arriba County is a producing county. We gave you a list of all the producing counties and their regulatory requirements. Basically, most of them have no regulatory requirements for oil and gas activities within their county. Rio Arriba does. It became apparent that Sandoval County was not in line with the rest of the producing counties. Sandoval County currently requires a special use rezoning for both exploration and production activities. Staff further amended the draft to reflect regulatory realities throughout the state. Due to the differing population distributions and densities within Sandoval County, staff adopted the Rio Arriba approach to regulatory requirements. Rio Arriba has a 2-tiered approach that recognizes the differences between densely populated areas and those areas that are sparsely populated. A second draft was sent to OCD for review at the beginning of 2017. A second review and comment meeting was set up with OCD and New Mexico Tech. Further changes were made to the draft to clarify the intent of various sections of the ordinance. A third draft has been completed and sent to OCD and New Mexico Tech for review and comment. let me revise my staff report that we already have a meeting set up for May 24th to meet with OCD to go over their comments. And of course, the work session is today, so we have that. If the County Commission approves, public meetings will be scheduled with the Planning and Zoning Commission to develop a final draft for the Board of County Commissioners review. It is anticipated that this process will probably take most of the summer to complete. If I may also, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Fine is here from New Mexico Tech. However, Dr. Romero could not make it because of graduation requirements. He needs to be down there. I'd like to read his statement into the record if I may. The New Mexico Energy and Implementation Plan calls for county and local governments to create a strategic alliance of experts from independent bodies to provide science-based education and technical information regarding oil and gas development. Therefore, Sandoval County contacted New Mexico Tech to request technical support to address an ongoing interest to explore for new oil and gas resources in the county. Currently, the county and New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources, a division of New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology, are entering into an agreement that will provide the Sandoval County Planning and Zoning Division with an assessment of the potential for oil and gas resources throughout Sandoval County, New Mexico. The assessment will cover all of Sandoval County, including the historically productive northwestern part of the county, as well as parts of the county that have not had oil and gas production. The non-productive parts of the county have recently drawn interest for exploratory oil and natural gas drilling. Exploratory drilling may result in the discovery of viable, producible resources and therefore lead to future oil and natural gas production in the county. The proposed study will identify key geologic parameters that will be mapped across the county. Parameters to be evaluated include identification of stratigraphic units, formations that have oil and gas potential, lithography and types of reservoirs, hydrocarbon shows encountered by previous exploratory drilling, petroleum source rock parameters and distribution, areas of current and historic production, and areas that have the potential for future oil and natural gas production. Mapping of potentially productive strata will allow an assessment of the depth of potentially productive reservoirs across the county. In addition, the general distribution of aquifer-bearing formations will also be identified in the county from existing data sources to characterize the distribution of freshwater and brackish water resources. By combining the data from projected depths to potentially productive oil and gas reservoirs within the distribution of water resources, we can offer information related to the potential impact of oil and natural gas production on water resources. The proposed study will offers to summarize the available modern drilling technologies designed to enhance oil and natural gas production and how these technologies, when correctly applied, can minimize potential impacts to groundwater resources. It is important to note that New Mexico Technology, including any and all of its divisions, will provide only science-based technical information and recommendations, not regulatory input with regard to Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance Revision, Section 10D.13. New Mexico Tech may be requested to review and comment on oil and gas drilling applications for both exploration and production wells by examining the geologic setting of proposed wells and related transportation systems. New Mexico Tech may provide information on oil and gas potential and its relationship to groundwater resources in future potential projects that relate to the Zoning Ordinance Revision, Section 10D.13. New Mexico Tech will not inspect oil and gas wells or provide related inspection services. New Mexico Tech does not provide legal or statutory services, but is limited to science-based education and technical information regarding oil and gas development. Questions?
Thanks, Director Springfield, for your presentation. Are there any questions from the commission? Commissioner Heil.
So you made the comment that you have a meeting May 24th with OCD. Excuse me, and following that, you will be looking for direction from the commission. I
No.
guess before we would give you any direction, we'd like to hear the results of that meeting.
If I may, what we're hoping for out of this meeting today is direction on, are we going in the right direction? Do you want us to keep going in this direction? From the guidance that you gave us last year, what we're planning on is going through the comments from OCD on the 24th, which my understanding is a majority of them have to do with definitions within the ordinance. And what we were planning on doing is doing a final draft to put online so everybody can review it, schedule that in June to go to present it to the Planning and Zoning Commission and start the public hearing comment process then. After that's complete, then bring it to this body for review.
Thank you, Commissioner Heil. Entertain a couple of questions from the public for Director Springfield. Mr. Flynn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Springfield, why are you using Mexico Tech for the conservation? Why? I understand the state legislature, but for you, what's the import or value of having OCD and Tech involved in these conversations?
Mr. Chairman, OCD is invaluable for the review of this document because what we do is we work with their staff and our staff to make sure that there's no overlap in jurisdiction, that we are not trying to regulate something that they already regulate. We are, first of all, land use planners in your planning and zoning department. We are not engineers. They are engineers. That's their statutory responsibility and not ours. So OCD gives us comment on somewhere where we may have overstepped our bound, and then we correct that. New Mexico Tech has been invaluable in just explaining the oil industry to us so that we understand the oil industry. They've acted as a good go-between from activities going on in the state legislature, the current environment in the oil and gas community, and just educating us on the technology of oil and gas production and the safety of oil and gas production.
So, Mr. Springfield, is it fair to say that the expertise provided by OCD and Tech helps fill some gaps maybe where you and your staff may lack that type of engineering and expertise in working with the industry?
Actually, the best education that we have received from OCD and New Mexico Tech is that when we started reviewing ordinances that are out there right now, they were instrumental in explaining to us how those ordinances overlapped and usurped jurisdiction from OCD, and also how they were prohibitive for oil and gas exploration and production. They placed impediments to oil and gas production. So that was explained to us. Let me just go back again and reiterate what I just said our ordinance is right now. Right now, if you want to do oil and gas exploration or production in our county, you have to go through a special use rezoning. That's a rezoning process. That goes through the Planning Commission for review and recommendation, and then comes to this body for review and approval. That is a cumbersome process. But beyond being cumbersome, our zoning ordinance does not give us any guidelines on what to review, how to recommend. What we're trying to do is come up with a set of rules that are easy to understand, easy to follow, easy for us to review, and easy to recommend to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So, Mr. Springfield, my understanding is that the county's current version of the ordinance mandates the use of closed loop systems. So the county is requiring closed loop systems to be utilized. That directly contradicts state law, which allows closed loop systems to be utilized. So in light of all the meetings that have occurred with OCD, again, why would the county be proposing to move in a direction that is in direct conflict with state regulations?
In the draft that we have right now, it's divided into two areas of the county. Our ordinance right now does not require anything. All it requires is a special use rezoning. It's totally open to what the requirements may be within the county. Within the draft right now, there is a distinction between closed loop systems. In the northwestern producing portion of the county, there is no requirement for closed loop systems. Down here in the populated area, we took the position that open ponds for waste products was not conducive to an urban environment. And of course, that's up for discussion with the county and the industry.
One more question, and I would just comment again, Mr. Springfield. I really applaud the fact that you and your staff are really interested in avoiding any conflict with the existing regulations. I would strongly encourage you to continue to closely review the existing regulations and to look closely at any comments you receive from industry and others with respect to specific areas where there's a lot of implications. There's quite a bit of overlap in areas that, quite frankly, the county does not have any jurisdiction to regulate. The last question I would just have is, why would Sandoval County choose to pattern itself after Rio Rico County, where you have a 24% unemployment rate in the state? Is that really the model that Sandoval County really wants to follow?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that's actually opposite of what we're doing in this draft. What we're doing in the producing part of the county that is sparsely populated is lowering the regulatory requirements and trying to mirror OCD's permitting process. We're trying to streamline a process that right now on the books can take anywhere from 3 to 4 months down to 2 weeks. It would be an administrative approval. It would go hand in hand with OCD's approvals. The lengthy part of that review would be for the industry to provide our fire chief with an emergency preparedness plan and a review by the public works director if there's any impacts on the county roads that need to be dealt with. It's a lot simpler than what we have right now. Down in the populated part of the county, it would be reduced from a zoning change to a conditional use permit that would be heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission, which can be done within 45 days, which is only due to public notice requirements that we have to give. It would also give a clear set of guidelines that the industry would need to meet, having to do with land use issues, not engineering issues, not OCD issues, only land use issues. Once those are completed and filed with our department, we schedule it with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Our report and recommendation only says that it's been completed and is complete. We're trying to tie it down actually and make it tighter. We think it will help the industry.
And it's all subject to review and approval, so I think the question at this point is are we on the right track? And my response to that would be yes, we are. We wanted to engage the experts in the industry to help us from a standpoint of overreach and not necessarily need to go there, but we do have some local issues that we need to take into consideration when we're talking about roads, public safety, and so on and so forth. We recognize, and it's already in the draft, you know, the federal and state regulations that take jurisdictional or statutory authority from Sandoval County. So we're trying not to go there. We're not going to go there, frankly. But in the process, though, there are these needs that are really a protection of the taxpayers in the county in terms of, roads and so on and so forth that we need to protect, and we're going to do that in the process. Another question from the public, Ms. Chimino?
Hello, my name's Elaine Chimino. Been working on this oil and gas thing for about 18 months now, following along. We looked at the draft ordinance that was out there. We saw that you were dividing the county in two. This has some fairly concerning implications, incurring environmental racism, environmental and social justice issues, by dividing a county that you say have less population. Why is a county with less population that has a majority minority community, Native American, Hispanic communities being unduly poisoned by the oil and gas industry up in the northwest part of the county, and you've never even looked at those issues that are going on out there, and then you just want to divide it to the southeast? This is not appropriate in dividing a county and having a different set of roles for people who are being poisoned by this industry. Second of all, you have not heard our issues. We have professionals that want to come and give you an education, Mr. Springfield, and the planning department an education on the things that are not covered by the oil and gas industry. And you have not even begun to reach out to our community for that. So there's been a lot of issues about you working with oil and gas for the last 18 months and not hearing us from the public. And yes, there are a lot of different groups that have different points of view about this. But overall, we see that this draft that you have put together is not appropriate for the issues that we're facing in Sandoval County. And it is by far, you didn't release any of the exhibits when we had asked for those documents. And we also have an upcoming court case with the county over IPRA on your safety plan. You just admitted that you don't have a safety plan, and we have asked for that plan since September 5th. So you have to understand, what we're coming forward with is something that we're entitled to as citizens to have input in this process, and you have not given us that. And I just want to say that we have experts as well, Mr. Springfield, and we need to have that input into this process so that when we know that this thing is going to the Planning and Zoning Commission, that it has included us as well.
Ms. Chimino, I'm not inclined to cut anybody off, but do you have a question?
Yes, when do we get our say
There'll be
in
a
this
public hearing.
process?
There'll be a public hearing.
Well, no,
Please,
at least
no,
two.
you all have had your presentation. You have allowed
And
the
we have-
oil and gas companies to come through here and have their presentations. You have not allowed our professionals to come in here and talk about health and safety and water and air and all the things that need to be done. And yes, I do understand that in the hearing process, it's going to be important to submit those findings, but several findings have already been submitted. Where are those in this process? They're not reflected right now in the ordinance that has been drafted, and that's what we're concerned about. And that's what we hope that in this work session, you will address. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Yes,
Director
sir.
Springfield.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, because this is a procedural issue and it's very important for staff to let the public and everybody know what the process is here. Staff has been working with the state regulatory agency because we were told do not step on their regulatory toes. New Mexico Tech teaches oil and gas in the state. They are preeminent in that. They have helped us understand just the general nature. We have not, to be clear, we have not taken any comments from the industry. We have not taken any comments from the opponents of that industry. That needs to be done in public. We've let both sides know this. The staff is not taking sides one way or the other. We're making sure that we write land use guidelines in our zoning ordinance. We're making sure that we do not interfere with the regulatory responsibilities of the state. Those comments from either side need to come before the public, need to be discussed before the public, and it needs to be done at the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is standard process for the county.
So, Mr. Springfield, Director Springfield, do you have your next meeting where you're going to review the ordinance as written, the draft, and then you're going to have how many public hearings?
We have a May 24th meeting to go over what we believe to be the final draft with OCD.
Right.
As soon as that process is complete, we will post that draft on the web so the public can see it, have plenty of time to read it. We will schedule the June Planning and Zoning Commission for public hearings. My chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission is here. He can attest to the fact, and I have a past Planning and Zoning Commissioner on this board, that we don't know how long that process is going to take. We're hoping that we can get it done through the summer and then bring it to you. The one thing that's important for this body to know is that the heavy lifting, the intense hearing of both sides is done down at the Planning and Zoning Commission. And when the Planning and Zoning Commission feels comfortable in giving you a recommendation, we will bring that recommendation to you. I'm hoping we can get that done this summer and we can have an ordinance to you and completed by this fall.
I hope so too. Okay, thank you, Mr. Springfield.
Thank you.
We're now going to go to public comment.